Okay, so it is day 4 of Advent of Code. We are currently on 6 stars. We've done fantastically well so far over the last 3 days. Unfortunately, we've still got 22 days to go, so things are about to get harder. We are now at day 4, and we're revealing this picture. Still can't work out what it is yet. I feel like I might be looking at it a bit too much, a bit too hard. I don't know. I have no idea what it is. But let's get on to the coding. So Advent of Code, every day of Advent, we are being given a new coding challenge, and today is no different. So let's jump right into it and go into day 4's coding challenge. So passport processing, day 4. Let's have a look. You arrive at the airport only to realize that you grabbed your North Pole credentials instead of your passport. Happens to the best of us. While these documents are extremely similar, North Pole credentials aren't issued by a country and therefore aren't actually valid documentation by travel in most of the world. This could be a problem. Okay, it seems like you're not the only one having problems though. A very long line has formed for the automatic passport scanners, and the delay could upset your travel itinerary. Due to some questionable network security, you realize you might be able to solve both of these problems at the same time. Questionable networks. It sounds like we're about to do some bad hacking. Let's see. The automatic passport scanners are slow because they're having trouble detecting which passports have all required fields. The expected fields are as followed. So we've got BYR, which is birth year, IYR, which is issue year, expiration year, height, hair color, eye color, passport ID, and country ID. So that is what all passports. That's the information that all passports are expected to have. Passport data is validated in batch files, which will be our puzzle input. Fun. Each passport is represented as a sequence of key value pairs separated by spaces or new lines. Passports are separated by blank lines. Here is an example batch file containing 4 passports. So passports are separated by blank lines. So every time there's a blank line here, we know we're onto a different passport. So we've got our, what's this? Eye color, gray, passport ID, and then we've got the ID. We've got the EYR, what's that? Something year, expiration year. We've got the HCL, hair color, okay. Birth year, we've got our issue year, we've got our country ID and our height there. Okay, so they're split over 2 lines. We've got another passport, another passport, another passport, and you can see the amount of lines is varying in this. That's going to be a problem that we're going to have to solve in this. So it could be over 2 lines, it could be over 4 lines, we don't know. And I'm assuming our puzzle input is going to be even more bananas than this. The first passport is valid. All 8 fields are present. The second passport is invalid. It is missing height, the height field, or HGT. Okay. The third passport is interesting. The only missing field is CID, so it looks like data from North Pole credentials, not a passport at all. Surely nobody would mind if you made the system temporarily ignore missing CID fields. Treat this passport as valid. Okay, so if it's just missing CID, then we're like, yeah, not a problem. That's fine. We'll scoot that through. The fourth passport is missing 2 fields, CID and birth year. Missing CID is fine, but missing the other field is not, so this passport is invalid. According to the above rules, your improved system would report 2 valid passports. Count the number of valid passports, those that have all required fields. Treat CID as optional. In your batch file, how many passports are valid? Okay, to begin, get your puzzle input. Let's have a quick look at it. Yep, there's a lot of passports in here. Let's just scroll. Yeah. Just like every day this month, we've gone to our puzzle input, and there's just an absolute bananas amount of data in here. So luckily for us, we are going to program a solution, and it's going to take a fraction of the time that it would to go through this and manually check everything. Okay, we're not going to work with that to start with, though. We're going to copy our test data here because we know what our outputs are supposed to be. And we're going to jump into REPL.it. So I'm just going to go to the files and do a quick bit of management. So we need to make 2 new files. One is going to be for today, which is day4.py, and one is going to be for the data. So I'm going to say data. No, I'm going to say day4 data.txt. Lovely. I'm just going to paste, oh no, I don't want to paste that in. I want to paste this in. So let's just Control A, Control C, and into REPL.it, Control V. And this is 1,146 lines. That's a lot of data. Okay, and we're going to paste our test data. Let's copy this again. Oh, let's try that again. Let's copy this again and paste it into REPL.it. So we're going to have, as always, our test data, and that's going to be equal to this. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to load this in as strings. So we're just going to do that, 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 that. I'm just going to simulate what our data is going to be like when we actually read it in. So it's going to be a list just like yesterday, and each item in the list, you notice even the blank lines I'm treating as an empty string because that's how our code will read this in. So we've got our test data is equal to this. I'm just going to shunt this over to show that it's inside the array. I'm just going to put a comma after each thing because they are all elements in this list. Okay, fantastic. So we've got all of these and then our finishing square bracket here. Wait, did I put that in? I must have put that in. Yeah, that doesn't need to be there. So let's get rid of that. Okay, lovely. So we've got our test data here. We're also going to just jump into day 3 and we're going to pinch the top here. And we're going to pop that into day 4. That helper file, it just has our read file code in. So down here, it knows how to read a file. So we can use that to read in our data when we need to. Let's also put in our kind of mission statement, what we want to do at the top. So we want to count the number of valid passports. Those that have all the required fields, treat CID as optional. In your batch file, how many passports are valid? Let's just copy that, paste that at the top to remind ourselves of what we're doing. Okay, it looks like we are pretty much set up. So we need to break these down. We need a kind of list of fields, really, don't we, to begin with? So we've got these. Let's copy these, pop them into our code. So I'm going to make another list, and I'm going to call them fields. Let's call them passport fields. I'm going to set that equal to a list, and inside that list, we're simply just going to store each of these little 3-letter abbreviations as strings, which is going to take a little bit of messing around on the keyboards, but shouldn't take too long. I'm sure I really should go to Google and just find some better keyboard shortcuts to do this. It's a little bit painstakingly slow, which I apologize for. But once we've done this once, we'll have done it and that'll be fine. It's not like we're going to have to repeat this process. Otherwise, I would be thinking more carefully about how I'm doing this and try and do it in the code. But as it's just a one-off, it's probably going to be quicker just to do this. So almost there. Now, CID is a field. But it doesn't matter if CID is in there or not. So we're not going to include CID in here for now. So for it to be a valid passport, it has to have all of these, and it doesn't have to have CID. Now, we want to check a passport. We also want to make a passport. So we're going to have 2 functions. I'm going to pop this at the top here. So we're going to say define. We're going to define a function, and we're going to call this check passport. Let's do passport like that. And we are going to want to pass in a passport. And we're going to do something here. I don't quite know what we're going to do yet. We need to think about how we're going to make the passport first. So we're also going to define a function called make passport. Okay, and we are going to, what are we going to do? We are going to we're going to store the passport data maybe in a dictionary. I think that might be the best idea. We've not done a dictionary yet, so that'll be nice and fun. That'll be fun for us. So we want to make passport with some passport data, I guess, we want to pass in. And the passport data, we're going to essentially be pulling out something like this, these 2 lines. So we want to take that data. I'm assuming we'll have it as an array. So it will come in as a list to us. And so what we'll do is we'll say our passport is equal to a empty dictionary. And then we're going to say our passport data, I want to loop through our data actually, so we want to say for line in passport data, we want to say line.split, and we want to split it on a space. So we want to take every space and split the things so we get these all in a nice list. So instead of in a string like this, we get them chopped up into a nice list. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say let's say entry equals line.split. So this will, instead of, when we pass this string in, it will look at this string and it will split it up to look like this, where it's a array where it's storing each of these things in like this, because we use the split function. So it's taken all the spaces out and it's returned each item. There'll be a string. I'm not going to put all the speech marks around them. It's just demonstrating. But they'll be in a nice little list for us rather than as a string. And this means we can access just one at a time. We can just access this one, or we can access this one. When they're in a string, it's harder to know what's what. And so by splitting it and putting them each into their own segment in the array will be easier to work with. So now what we want to do is we want to go for item in entry. So we want to look through each thing in that list. Bear with me, stick with me here. For every item in entry, we want to say, what do you want to say? We want to say field equals item.split. And we want to split this on the colon, okay? So we want to take this colon and we want to just separate this ECL and this GRY, okay? We want to be able to treat them independently. And we're going to say that our passport at position field 0 is equal to field 1. Now, this is a little bit over-engineered for what the challenge is actually asking us, but I've got a nasty feeling that in part 2, this is gonna come in handy. So I think this is worthwhile doing. So a dictionary typically looks like this. So we'll have something like name and I'll have name, and then I will have colon, and then something like, I don't know, Dave. And then I can say X equals passport name, and X's value will be Dave, because it's looking up in passport, it's finding the key of name, and then it's returning me the value that belongs to that key, which is Dave. And so X will then be Dave in this example. And when I'm saying passport field 0, what I'm saying is I want it to use field 0, which will be this little thing here, like ECL or PID or EYR. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a item inside passport called EYR, and it's going to set the value to 2020. Okay, and that's going to make our passport. I'm going to get rid of Dave, unfortunately. Sorry, Dave. It's not your day. Let's get rid of this. So we're going through. We're going through the passport, and we are essentially making this, filling it out with all the fields, and then we're going to return our passport. So I'm going to say return passport. Why isn't it auto-correcting? It's not very fun. Okay. Now, rather confusingly, I'm going to also make a function called make passports, which is going to produce all of our passports. So this make passport is just going to produce one passport. Make passports is going to take in a whole chunk of data like this, not just our little passport data like that, and it's going to generate all of our passports. So I'm going to say our passports is a list of passports. It's empty at the moment because we haven't made any. We're going to use this function to make them, and we are going to we're going to pass in our, we call it passport data up here, so I'm going to call this raw data up here, and we want to go through each thing in raw data. So I'm going to say what should we say? Let's say for, let's say, for line in raw data, we are going to, so we're going to look at each element in this test data to start with at a time. And we are going to actually, we probably want to keep count of where we are. Let's use a count controlled loop. So let's say for I in range, and let's say the length of raw data. So however long that array is, and this array here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So when this function runs with our test data, it's going to do this 13 times. So what I want to check is if the next line is a blank line. Okay, so let's also store a current position equals 0. Oh, so I've been programming in JavaScript recently. For I in range length of raw data, we want to say if raw data at position I plus 1, so this loop here, this for I loop, we're going to start at 0 and we're going to tick upwards, but this is at position 0, and what I want to do is I want to check what's at position 1 and see whether it's a space. And then I, once it gets to the bottom of the loop, it's going to come back up and it's going to increase by 1. So it's going to become 1. And so it's going to be here. And then I want to check whatever's at I plus 1 again. So I is now 1, 1 plus 1 is 2. So we'll be looking at this. And if that is an empty string, we are going to want to do something. Now, what are we going to want to do? Well, we are going to want to do a few things. So the first thing we want to do is we want to splice the array. So we want to, how do I copy from an array in Python? We've got current position, we've got I. Okay, so if raw data, we're then going to say, we're going to have ourselves, let's call it passport data as well. Passport data equals an empty array. We're going to say for j in range, and we're going to go from our current position up to I plus 1. And then we are going to, if raw data I plus 1 equals and raw data I, I does not equal empty. So I don't want to be in a case where it counts this as the first entry of our passport. So let's ignore that. So for j in range from current position to I plus 1, what we want to do is say passport data dot append raw data at position j. Okay, so what we're doing is we are going through everything in our raw data, each line. Okay, and if we find out that when we're on this line, the next line is an empty string, then what we want to do is we want to, what do we want to do? We want to, sorry, my brain has just died then. We want to take where we started down and up to this empty string, and we want to add this to our passport, our make passport function, and make a passport. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say passport data is an empty array. We're going to then go through from where we started, so 0 to start with, up to where the space is, so up to here. We're then going to add those to our passport data. We're then going to run our make passport function. I call it make passport? Yeah, I did. Make passport. And we're going to pass in that passport data. And that is just going to happily churn through our passport data and return to us a passport. So what we're going to say is passport equals make passport. Is the word passport stopping making sense to you? It doesn't mean anything to me anymore. It's just sound. And now we're going to say passport.append. That means add to the end, by the way. So if I've got a list like here, passport data, and I've got something in it, like this. Okay, if I was to append to passport data, I'd be adding to the end. So I'd be chucking my next element in here. So if my next element was 7, I'd be adding it in right at the end there. I don't want this though. So passports.append passport. I'm just going to pop passport into the end of my passports here. And then at the end of all that, we are going to return our passports. Okay, fantastic. So we've made a passport. We've made the passports. Now we need to check them. Oh, this word has lost all meaning completely. So test data, passport fields down here. That's probably going to go in our check passports function. So let's take that and pop that up here. Let's get rid of this print line. And let's just check everything is working. So I'm going to say down here, I'm going to say passports equals make passports. And we're going to pass in our test data. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to print passports 1. Let's see what that does. And we're still running day 3's code. That's embarrassing. So let's jump into our .repl.it. I keep calling it the .repl.it file, but it's not. It's the .repl file. Day 4. There we go. Go back to our code, hit run, and list index out of range. Okay, so I've goofed up here. Where is it? Passport field equals field 1. Okay, interesting. So for item in entry, for line in passport data, so we're passing in this for I+1, if that's the thing, so it's not going to go up to that. And then we're splitting on this. Shouldn't be an issue. Why would that be an issue? Why would that be an issue? I wonder how far that got through. Let's print this out each time. So let's print fields here before it tries to do this. And let's see what's going on. So, okay, it's getting to the end here and we're getting an empty field for some reason. Right at the end, maybe? Getting something. Okay, so what we're going to do is just going to have to do a little check here. So for item in entry, if item does not equal an empty string, then we're going to do all of this. And hopefully that was quite painless and that just works. Of course not, of course not. If raw data I+1 and raw data I, so we don't want to go up, well, we do though, don't we? If raw data I+1, so really we want to check, we want to say if, we want to check that we're not at the end, because here we're doing I+1, but if I is right at the end, if it's on this line, then we need to just finish, we just need to end. So we want to say if I equals our length of raw data -1, then we want to do something. What do we want to do? We want to, really, we want to bypass this, don't we? If length of raw data -1, or if raw data I-1 and raw data that, then we're going to make our passport. So we need to kind of do all of this if I is at the end, don't we? Oh, we're not updating our current position. That's a rookie error. So I want to come down here and I want to say current position equals, let's say, I. Let's try that. Let's do I+1. Because we want it to be at that space. Okay, yeah, actually, we probably want to do I+2. Okay, and then we want to make sure that I is above current position. So we want to say if I is greater than or equal to current position, then we want to do this. And we also need to put in a clause here for if we're at the end. So we can't do -1 here. My mind is instantly going here and saying -1, but actually we can't do that because otherwise we'll just miss the last line, which is no good. Or is it? No, it's fine because we'll go up to that. If raw data I plus 1 is equal to that, and raw data is equal to that, okay, we just need to build a good Boolean expression here. So we need to say if our raw data, so if the next line is empty, or if I is if we do this, it's going to crash the program. That's the trouble. That is the trouble. Okay, no, let's be thoughtful about this. So we want to say if I equals that, then maybe we just bundle this in a function, maybe that would be easier. Decisions. Okay, we could also do a try. Let's try a try. So we're going to tell Python to try doing this. And if it doesn't do this, if we get an index error, like here, we're going to say except index error. So can you see that this is does it actually say the word exception? Doesn't, does it? No. Okay. Other programming languages will say there's been an exception, but this one does not seem to do that. But if we get an exception, the index error, then what we're going to do is we know that we're at the end now. So we are going to just do this code again. I'm loath to copy it, but it's probably going to be easier to do that. Okay, yeah, Sam, you're probably right there. We could probably just do a lazy check. So let's get rid of the try except, and let's do if. Let's try it and see if it works. If the length of our, if I is equal to the length of our raw data -1, or raw data I plus 1 equals nothing, and raw data I does not equal that. Okay, let's run this and see if this happens. Okay, and I've just got some syntax error here. I think I've indented this too far, maybe. Let's push that back in. I'm happy. Line 25. If I okay, I'm missing a bracket there. Try that. Okay, fantastic. So we've got something. We've definitely got something. So ECL, great. PID, that. So hang on, what passport is this? Oh, this is exciting, fantastic. This has worked. Well done, Sam. You solved this. So yeah, what it's done is it has evaluated this expression. It's gone. If that's true, then it's like, yeah, cool, and it's jumped into this without checking this, and that means that we're not running into that error that we were running into earlier. Okay, so we are returning our passports here, and we're printing out our first position 1 in our passports array, and we've got this. So I'm expecting this to be, okay. Let's why has it done that? Let's run this again. Okay, so we've got ECL gray. Now I'm confused because I'm printing out the thing in passports 1. What if I print out 0? Okay, interesting. What if I print out 2? And what if I print out 1 again? Okay, so one looks like it's merging the first and the second together. IYR 20. Actually, it's not looking, I think position 2 isn't looking like anything I'm expecting here. FFFD, yeah. That looks like this one again. That's not what I want. Why is that doing that? So it looks like we've got an issue with our code here. I'm just going to make my text a little bit smaller. Okay. And let's also just have it go off the side. Wrapping, none. Okay, that's better. Okay, so we've got our make passports. We're going through our raw data. Oh, I did -1. I didn't want to do that. That was just a demonstration. If I is greater than current position, we're then going to check to see if I is equal to -1 or our raw data. If the next line is blank and we're not on a blank line, then we're going to actually, we don't really need to check for this, but that's okay. Passport data is equal to an empty array. And we're going to go from our current position, so 0, up to I plus 1, but not including it. And we're going to say passport data dot append raw data. So we're going to add to this passport data array with our raw line of data, such as this. And then we are going to say make passport. We don't want to make a passport until we've got all of our data. Okay, so I'm going to do, okay, I've been a nincompoop here. We want to do passport data.append. We want to add our raw data, and we want to keep doing that. And then once we've got all of our passport data, we then want to make our passport. We're then going to append our passport to passports, and we're going to advance our current position by 2, because our current position will be here. And we want to then start not on the blank line, but we want to then be on the next line after that. So we're going to advance it by 2, and we're going to just only do this stuff once I has then caught up to where current position is. By doing it this way, hopefully we'll avoid some shenanigans later down the line. So let's run this, and we can see we're printing out the thing in second position, and now this is much better. IYR 2013, and it ends with BYR 1929. Lovely. Okay, fantastic. So this is working. We've got all of our passports. Now what are we doing again? So we want to count the number of valid passports. So, oh yeah, we want to check our passports. So I've got a check passport function here. Let's also, we've got make passport and make passports. Why not have a check passport and check passports? So let's do a new function, def check passports. And we're going to pass in our passports. Oh, what a word to keep saying. Okay, so we're going to say for every passport in passports, we are going to say, we're going to have a variable up here called valid passports, and we're going to set that equal to 0. And then we're going to say for passport in passports, we are going to say valid passports plus equals, and we're going to check passport with our passport. And so we're going to return 1 if this is a valid passport, and we're going to return 0 if it's not. And so just like yesterday, we'll be able to update this nice and easily. And then we can return our valid passports once we've finished. Also, we might just print out here and say there are so many valid passports, and I'll use the .format function here and just pass it in our valid passports variable. Okay, there we go. So there are such and such, and these curly brackets here, they are indicating to Python that when we use the .format function, we're saying, oh, we want you to put this variable where these curly brackets are. So that will print out nicely. Now, all we need to do is just check that our passport is valid. So we are going to say for field in passport fields. I feel like it was a shaky start to this, but I feel like we're cooking by gas now. We're going to say if field is in our passport, actually, can we say not in? If field not in passport, it's like pseudocode, this is great. If field is not in passport, then we're going to return false, okay? Because it has to have all of these fields in it. If it doesn't have all of these in, then it's an invalid passport. We don't want to know about it. And if we go through all of the fields and we never return false, then we know that it's got all of the fields, so we can return true. So we're going to check every field, and if it's not in there, we're going to return false. Otherwise, we're going to do nothing, and we're going to keep checking every field. And if they're all there, all present and correct, we're going to get to the bottom of this function, and we're going to return true. I dare say it, I do feel like this is just going to work now. Maybe I'm being too. Maybe I'm being too optimistic there. So we've got a check passports function. I'm just trying to work out what function I actually need to run. So we make our passports with make passports, and then we're going to check our passports with check passports. Okay, fantastic. And that's going to print out for us. So I can literally, this is my program here. Okay, I'm going to say passports equals make passports, and we have wrapped all of the functionality up in this function here for how we make a passport. Okay, that was a bit of a pig, but we got there. We're then going to say, we've also told it how to make a single passport, as well as how to make all the passports given a set of data. We're then going to check passports, and it also knows how to check individual passports. Okay, lovely. So I can just come down here, and I can say check passports with our passports array, and get ready for the syntax error of a lifetime. Here we go. There are 2 valid passports. Oh, no, wait, this is the test data. Okay. I thought we were doing it with the real data. I was like, oh, no, this can't be right. The answer can't be 2. But that is the answer here, right? Where does it say? Okay, would report 2 valid passports. It's working against all the odds. It's printed out. I'm also telling us that we're running day 3. Let's just update this to day 4. Okay. So now, just like yesterday, instead of using our test data, we are going to swap to puzzle data. So we're going to say our puzzle data is equal to read, no, we're not going to say helper. Remember, we import helper right at the start, and helper is just a little Python file that we wrote to read files in and split every new line into an array for us. So we are going to use our helper file, and we're going to say helper.read file, and we're going to pass in day4 data.txt. And instead of doing what I've done every other day today, I'm going to remember to put it in the 2020 folder, because that's where it lives. So I need to say it's in the 2020 folder, because I've got a little 2020 folder here with all my code in. Okay, and inside there you'll find a file called day4 data.txt. And now, instead of passing in test data, we're going to pass in puzzle data. And here is the moment of truth. It's that simple. We're just updating the data, and now it should just churn through that and get our results. So let's see. Here we go. Wow, that was quick. Okay, there are 239 valid passports. Is it true? Can it be? Let's have a look. 239. Yes, we got it. We got it. 7 stars. What an absolute coding pro. Now, I have definitely made this a little bit more difficult than it needed to be. This is a little bit more of a process, but I'm hoping that what we've done now is going to pay off in part 2, because we've been so specific with generating passports and things. We could have not done as much work and still got the same result. But I've got a feeling they're about to change the game. Let's have a look. Part 2. The line is moving more quickly now, but you overhear airport security talking about how passports with invalid data are getting through. Better add some data validation quick. You can continue to ignore the CID field, but each other field has strict rules about what values are valid for automatic validation. So the birth year has to be at least 1920 and at most 2002. So if you are under 18, sorry, you're not allowed to travel. And if you're over 100, sorry, not allowed to travel. issue year has to be at least 2010 and at most 2020. So it can't be, if it's over 10 years old, your passport's out of date. Expiration year must be at least 2020 and must be at most 2030. Okay. And oh blimey, we've got a lot of rules here. So a number followed by either centimeters or inches. If it's centimeters, it must be at least 150 and at most 193. Okay, we've got a bunch of rules here essentially. Your job is to count the passports where all required fields are both present and valid according to the above rules. Here are some example values. Birth year valid 2002, birth year invalid 2003, because it has to be but most 2002, and 2003 is more than that. Here are some invalid passports. Blah, blah, blah. Here are some valid passports. Okay, we get it. Count the number of valid passports, those that have all the required fields and valid values. Continue to treat CID as optional. In your batch file, how many passports are valid? So all we need to do is we need to take this, and it has paid off. I'm really glad we did that. It has paid off big time. I'm so happy because so we didn't have to go to the trouble of making our passports in a dictionary. We could have been a bit more thoughtful and kind of analysed the line here or the lines and just kind of looked for these 3-digit things, okay? But because we've put it in a nice data structure, such as a dictionary, it's actually going to be much easier now to update our check passport function, because we just have to go through each of these and we have to just apply the different rules to them. Now that is going to be a bit manic. Let's just paste in the rules here and work through them one at a time. So our birth year has to be at least 1920. So first of all, we need to check that all the fields are in the passport. So we don't want to start checking that the birth year is correct and then realize that it's an invalid passport anyway. So we want to check that it's got all the fields that it needs to before we even do any other checks. So this will be our first check. So we want to say check passport fields. Okay, and that's going to be our first check here. So we're going to say valid passports. We're going to say check passports have valid fields, what a function name, and we are going to store all of these in an array instead. So we're going to have the passport, and instead of returning true, we're going to return our passport. Okay, and we're going to say valid, make this into is valid, and we're going to say if this is valid, equals check passport. We're going to say if is valid does not equal false. So we can return false here, or we can either return the passport, one of the two. Okay, if it's not false, then it's going to be a passport. So we're going to add our passport to valid passport. So we're going to say valid passports dot append our passport. We've checked that it's valid for the fields. It has valid fields, and we're going to add that. And then at the end, we're just going to return this array here. We're going to get rid of this print line. And for part one, what we're going to do is we're going to say check passports have valid fields, have valid fields. And we're going to say our passports now equal check passports have valid fields. So what this is going to do is it's going to take in all of our passports. We're going to make all the passports. We're then going to pass that whole bundle of passports into here. And we're going to check that bundle for the ones that are just valid, the ones that have the fields that we want. And any that we don't, we're going to discard. And we're only going to return a list of the ones that have valid fields. And we're going to update our variable passports here with that list of ones that are valid. Okay, and then we're going to print there are valid, we're going to say len passports. So there are length of passports, valid passports. So we should still get 239 if I hit run. And I've got a syntax error because I've just pasted all of this in and not commented it out. Let's try that again. Sorry, Python, didn't mean to scare you there. Let's hit run. And check passport is not defined because I'm using that somewhere. Let's take this. Check passport fields, I've updated this, so let's pop that there. Okay, run. Lovely, 239 still. Okay, so I've just revamped this so that it's a bit more specific. So we're just checking that this has valid fields. I was tempted to put all the code for this next section in here, but actually I would much prefer to keep it separate. So we're now going to check passports have valid data. We're going to define that as a function. And we're also going to define, you guessed it, check passport data. So one of them is going to take in a list of passports, just like our check passports have valid fields does. And the other is going to take in a single passport, and it's just going to apply those rules. And this way we can just work on one little block of code at a time and not overwhelm ourselves. So I'm very easily overwhelmed. Okay, so we're going to do pretty much the same thing we did up here. So let's just copy this. It's a bit sloppy practice. So we're going to say a valid passport is an empty array again. We're going to loop through for every passport in our array of passports. That should be passed in here, passports. We are going to say for every passport in that list, this could be anything. I could have called this lemon, for lemon in passports, and checked with a lemon whether it's right. But I'm going to use the word passport because it's a bit more descriptive of what we're actually doing, even though I am getting sick of saying the word. We're going to say is valid equals check passport fields. We're not going to do that. We're going to say equals check passport data. If is valid does not equal false, we're then going to add the passport to our valid passports, and we're going to return that. And we're going to say the same kind of thing down here. I'm going to copy this. Actually, let's copy both of these lines. So I'm going to do part 1. There are so many valid passports, and I'm going to do part 2. There are so many valid passports, and each time I'm just going to read the length of the passwords. So I want to update this function. I don't want to check passports have valid fields twice. I want to check that for part 1, and I want to check they have valid data for part 2. So we're going to update this function here. Lovely stuff. Now this isn't going to run very well because it's not going to really do anything at the moment. Check passport data doesn't really exist. In fact, what I could do is I could just say return false, and we could just check it's all working. So I'm anticipating that by saying return false here, if it keeps returning false, we're going to have 0 valid passports. So if this is all working correctly, this should then print out part 2, there are 0 valid passports. Let's hit run. Great, I predicted it good. I did good. Okay, so we've got the first answer, that was valid. We put that into the website, that's all fine. We now just need to verify our data. So we're scooting through all this data. Now we just need to tell it how to check the passport data. And I don't think just returning false is probably the best thing to do. So let's go through our different passport fields. So we're going to say for field in passport. Okay, so for every key in our passport. Now remember, our passport at this point looks a bit like this. Let me just draw a model of it. Draw diagram. So it's going to look like this, and we're going to have these different values in it. So it might have something like ECL, and that has the value of GRY. Okay, and then it will have a comma, and it will have the next one. So it will have PID, and it will have a colon, and it will have 8600333327. So this is how we've modeled the data, okay, and that's what we did in the first section. And as I keep referring to, that was a little bit overboard for the first one, but we're now going to be able to go through each field in the passport. So when we say for field in passport, what we're saying is for each one of these, so ECL, PID, and we'll keep going down the list, so HCL, IYR, we're then going to have a look at what I've called this password. Oh dear, passport. We're then going to have a look at what the value of passport field is. So this field variable will be ECL, and if I say passport field, we're going to get the value of grey. And if I say, and then field's going to go to the next one. So passport field is now PID. And when I say passport fields, I will get this number. And so we're going to go through each of them and we're going to check that the data matches the condition. So if our field is equal, I'll describe, equal to birth year, then we need to ensure that it is at least 1920 and at most 2002. So we're going to say BYR, why not? Let's call it that. Birth year is equal to passport field. And what we're saying is we want to get the thing at birth year. So if we had this in our little model down here, BYR colon, and then we might have something like 1999. Okay, we're saying passport field. So we're looking at, if field is BYR, we want to say passport, the thing at BYR, what's at BYR? It's 1999. And we want to check that. So we're going to have to convert this into an integer in order to check its size. And then we're going to say if BYR is greater than, what's the rule? Is greater than 2002, or BYR is less than 1920, then we're going to return false. Okay, it's instantly invalid. We don't need to check anything else at all. If the birth year is wrong, invalid, done, you're over. Okay, I got a bit. That was a bit much. I apologise. So that's our first one. That's this one done. I'm just going to like delete them as we go through. It's going to be very cathartic. So now we're going to say if our field is equal to IYR. I still can't remember what that means. Issue year. So it needs to be at least 2010 and at most 2020. So if field is that, we're going to say our IYR is equal to the integer of our passport field. Let's just copy this, paste it in there. And we are going to say if IYR is greater than, what does it need to be greater than? Greater than or equal, no, we want to see whether it's larger, greater than 2020, or it's less than, is less than 2010. So it has to be at least 2010. So it can include 2010, and at most 2020. So it can include 2020. So if it's greater than 2020 or it's less than 2010, guess what? We're returning false. Because this is invalid. Don't check anything else. Game over for this passport. I should be doing elif, shouldn't I? I hate elif. Why not just else if? Come on, Python. Better than this. So else if field is equal to EYR. Let's get rid of this IYR. The expiration year. EYR. Oh, this is just work now. This is just generally work. Okay, let's just copy all of this up here and pop it down here, colon. So we're going to say EYR is equal to integer of password field. If EYR is greater than 2030, I believe, or EYR is less than 2020, are they the things? At least 2020 and at most 2030. So if it's greater than 2030 or it's less than 2020, then we're going to return false. Okay, that's EYR done. Height is a number followed by either centimeters or inches. Does that mean some of them might not be followed by centimeters or inches? That is a question. Let's assume that always it says height is a number followed by centimeters or inches. Okay, so we're not checking for heights that might not be in centimeters or inches. That's one of the two. That's the fiction I'm going to stick to. So if it's centimeters, the number must be at least 150, at most 193. If inches, the number must be at least 59 and at most 76. So I'm going to do something a little bit cheeky here. So let's say elif field is equal to hugd or height. So if it's centimeters, the number must be at least 150 and at most. Let's just take this and put it down here. So if field equals height, and then we're going to say if cm is in. Actually, let's grab our height. So we're going to say hugd is equal to. You guessed it. We're going to say passport field. We're going to say if centimeters is in hugd, then we're going to apply this rule. So this is going to check the string height, which is going to look something like this down here. So 183 cm, that'll be our string. And if cm is in that string, so there it is at the end there, we are then going to check to see whether it falls in the range for centimeters. So let's cut that and pop it down here. Elif, let's say inch in hugd. Then we're going to do this. I'm also going to put in a quick else, and I'm going to just print. I'm just going to print danger because I'm almost 100% certain that they're only going to end in centimeters or inches. If some of them don't, then our code's not working properly, and we need to know that we're in danger. So I'm just going to print danger. If there's no centimeters or inches in it, then we're in danger. So we need to cut our number. So we need to say our number is equal. Our number equals height from position 0 up to the length of height minus 2. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to cut our number here, okay, but we only want to go up as far, so this is 5 long. We only want to go up to position 5, not including 5, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. But we actually want to minus 2 from that 5. So we want to go up to position, but not including position 3. So if we minus 2 from that 5, we'll go 0, 1, 2. So up to, but not including 3, and we'll just get the number. Okay. If this was just 183, if this was just 1, 3, our length would be 4. If we minus 2 from 4, we get 2, and we're going to go up to, but not 2. So we're going to go 0, 1, and we're going to chop out just that. So we're going to come up here, and we're going to say, we're going to cut, I think we have to do a colon here, not a comma. We're going to say from 0 up to the length of height minus 2, and that will be our number. And actually, let's convert that into an integer. And finally, we can say if our number is less than 150, or our number is greater than 193, then we're going to return false. Okay, fantastic. And we just need to do the same thing for inches. So let's grab this, let's copy this, and let's paste it down here. So number equals, actually, this is going to be true regardless, isn't it? So I could actually just take this and pop it up here. So because inch and centimeters are the same in length, we're always going to cut 2 away from the end. So that's fine. We can have this up here. Number, return false. If inches is in height, then we're going to say if number is less than 59 or number is greater than 76. Okay. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're getting there. Are you losing the will to live yet? Yeah, I know the feeling. Okay. Hair color. It needs to be a hash followed by exactly 6 characters, 0 to 9 or A to F. Now, this is where any good programmer would use a regular expression. But that's going to take me like half an hour of research to remember how to do regular expressions. So I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just botch this together. So let's do elif field equals, what was it? Eye color? Hair color, HCL. We want to check to see first off, we need to get our HCL, I guess. So we're going to say HCL is equal to passport field. And we're going to say if HCL at position 0 does not equal a hash, I don't know if it ever will or ever won't, but we're going to return false. So in the rules here, again, I'm interpreting these rules. It says a hash followed by exactly 6 characters. Does that mean there might not be a hash? I don't know. We're also going to want to check whether it needs to be followed by exactly 6 characters. So if it's longer than 7 characters, a hash plus 6, so 7 characters, then also it's false. So we're going to say if HCL does not equal hash or length of HCL does not equal 7, then we're going to return false. Okay. If that's not the case, then we're going to say elif. We want to say elif? No, we don't want to say elif. If that's not the case, then we want to go through each number and check it, each character in our hair color. So we're going to go here and we're going to say, okay, for letter in HCL, and let's have valid letters, and let's just define them in an array. So we're going to say it can go from, I think it's just a hex number, right? Yeah. So it can go from A to F or 0 to 9 plus a hash. So we're going to have a hash in there. We're going to have A, B, C, D, E, F. A, B, C, D, E, F. And then we're going to have 0 to 9 as well. A, B, C, D, E, F. And should I put 0 to 9 in here? It's a bit sloppy, but yeah. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And let's just replace these. So this will allow us to just do a really quick check to see whether our letter is in this array or not. If it's not in this array, then we know that it is an invalid character. 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so for letter in our HCL, if our letter is not in valid letters, should really call that valid characters really, because 0, the numbers and the hash aren't letters, but hey ho. If letter not in valid letters, then we are going to return false. We're getting there. So we're checking this one. We're checking to see whether our hair color, if it doesn't start with a hash or its length is not equal to 7, it's false. And if there is a letter in our hair color that is not in valid letters, we're going to return false. It's really like reading really nicely. I'm digging it. Okay, our eye color, it needs to be exactly one of these. Does that say other? Is that legitimate? Is that right? Did I copy that right? Oh, yeah. Okay. So we need to be one of those. So let's take this and let's come down here. We're going to say elif. We're going to add to this. Can you see why I kept this in its own function? It's just getting wild. Okay, there's probably a much more clever way to do this. If field is equal to ECL, the thing is, I say this a lot because it applies to me a lot. If it's stupid and it works, it really isn't stupid. I'm just gonna write that on everything I ever do as a comment at the top of the code. So if any other programmer looks at it, they'll be like, oh, yeah, fair play. So we're going to say valid colors is equal to this list of strings here. So every challenge this week has taken me about 40 minutes to do. We're currently an hour, over an hour, and we're still not quite done. And we don't even know this is going to work yet. We can see the difficulty is really ramping up here. Or maybe I'm just much more tired and making more mistakes. Who knows? So we've got our ECL. So if field equals ECL, we're going to say ECL is equal to passport field. Okay, and we're going to say if ECL, not in valid colors, then we are going to return false. Okay, that was quite nice. That was all right. So if our eye color, we're going to get our eye color from our current field in the passport, and we're going to check it. If it's not in our valid colors array, then we're just going to return false. It's not a valid color. It's a bit. I mean, that's a bit mean, isn't it? Like, sorry, your eyes are the wrong color. You can't travel. Now I think about it, maybe, yeah. Maybe we're unethically. This is an unethical program. Okay. A passport ID must be a 9-digit number, including leading zeros. Okay, that's fine. We're treating them as strings, so we don't need to worry about leading zeros. So it just needs to be a length of 9. Oh, thank goodness, an easy one. So we're going to say elif field is equal to PID. We're going to say if, actually, we're going to say return. No, we're not. No, we're not. No, we're not. We're going to say if. We only want to return if it's false. If it's 9 digits. So we're going to say if len of what? Well, we want to say PID is equal to passport at position field. We want to say if length of PID does not equal 9, game over. Return false. I can't wait to return true from this function. It's just like, this is why it's wrong. This is why it's wrong. This is why it's wrong. Return false, 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 false. It would be nice to actually be like, oh, and if you pass all of those, well done, it's true. So we've done that, a 9-digit number, and CID ignored. Okay, great. We're at the end. Oh, fantastic. Okay, lovely. So this is it. Great. So elif that. I'm going to put in else at the bottom here, and I'm also going to put like I'm just going to print like something's gone wrong. Let's say unknown field, and let's just put in our field. So if we get an unknown field, we'll print it out and we'll see what's going on. If all of that passes, by the way, for field in passport, we go through all the fields, we do that, okay? So when we come out of the loop then, we just want to return true. So once we've gone through all the fields, we know that it's a valid passport that has all the fields because we've already checked that the passports have valid fields. So that's in a separate function and we do that first. So we've got that up here. We've got check passports have valid fields. So we do that and then we come down here and we check that passports have valid data with only the passports that have valid fields in the first place. And so we don't have to worry when we're checking that they have valid data. We don't have to worry when we're doing the data check that they might not have the field because we know they're going to have them. So as we go through each field, we're just going to, if it's this field, then we're going to do this. If it's this field, we're going to do this. If it's this field, blah, blah, blah. And if it passes all of this, then we're going to return true. This could well be the moment of truth here. Let's have a look and run this bad boy. And there is, of course, an error. Oh, yeah, I put this in and I need to get rid of this. My little model passport. Let's just comment that out. We don't need that. I think I just forgot a comma here. I think that's why it's not happy. But anyway, let's run this. I can never tell if the code's slow because I coded it in a slow way or whether it's just the internet. I guess that's the trouble with using an online Python editor is that, there we go, unknown field, CID. Okay, yeah, cool, that's fine. Number equals height. Invalid literal for int with base 10 thing, okay. So, where is this? Is valid, check passport data, passport. So, check passports have valid data. Let's have a look here. If is valid equals, does not equal false. So when we check passport data, so we want to go to check passport data, and we want to what do we want to do? We want to, sorry, we want to come here, number equals int height 0 to length of height minus 2. Ah, okay, I'm a doofus. But you knew that already. So height here is a string. No, wait. Invalid literal for integer with base 10, nothing. Okay, so height is nothing. There's no height. Okay, so it doesn't exist. What does it say about height not existing? Height, a number followed, so it must be a number. Okay, so if it's not a number, then it's invalid. Okay, cool. So let's say height equals passport field. If height is equal to nothing, we'll just return false. That's an easy fix. Okay, let's run this. Bosh. Still not happy for int with base 10. Why are you not happy? So number is equal to the integer of height from 0. Oh, okay, it's this invalid literal for integer. Oh, because it's nothing. Ah, okay. So, but I checked whether that was, oh, but that, okay, let's do this. Let's take this, and we want to check whether that is equal to nothing. Great, fantastic, it's worked. Now, we've hit danger twice. Oh no, oh no. Why are we, oh, I think something's gone majorly wrong. Oh, I'm scared. Where did we put that in our checked passports? Have checked passport data, print danger. So someone didn't have centimeters or inches, then we're returning false, right? So if there's no centimeters or no inches in height, we're returning false. That makes sense. So if centimeters in height, do this. If there's inches in height, do this. Otherwise, return false, because there has to be centimeters or inches. Okay, I didn't need to print danger there, just return false. Also, we're not checking for CID, and it's just printing, it's just spamming me. So I'm going to come down here. If field is equal to PID, we're then going to say elif field is equal to CID. We don't care about CID. So we're just going to say continue. It's going to be like, yeah, we're happy with that. Just keep going. That's absolutely fine, and that's just gonna tell it to go to the next thing in the loop. So let's run this. Let's get rid of this and run this again. Okay, so there are 188 valid passports apparently. So we've taken out what, 20, 50, 67 passports. Let's have a look if it's right. Oh God, I feel like this has gone on and on and on, and I really do hope for your sake and mine that this is correct. So, moment of truth, 188. Is that the answer for day 4, part 2 of Advent of Code? Yes, we did it! We are rolling in the stars right now. Oh. I genuinely really enjoyed this. This is a real challenge. Like, this is a really good challenge. We broke this down in a really nice way, even though I now never want to see the word passport again. I think the way this is programmed is really helpful to see kind of the way that you can break down a problem. I've been fairly verbose. Like, I've been quite, I don't know, like, I've taken quite a lot of steps to do things, but hopefully that's shown you kind of my reasoning and my methodology for doing this. By no means am I going for the most efficient way to solve this, but trying to make it a little bit accessible. Looking back through the code is maybe not the most accessible, but hopefully you might have learned a little thing, and you're probably getting real used to working with lists and arrays by now, because we've used a lot of them today, and we've also introduced the dictionary as well, which hopefully you've got a little bit of a flavour of for there. So that's it for today. We've solved day 4, and I hope to see you all tomorrow for day 5. Have a good one. Oh.